Welcome to the Finding Financial Freedom podcast with the Frugal Physician, where Dr. Disha Spath will be your companion on this exciting financial adventure. Get ready to conquer debt, build wealth, and embrace a mindful spending lifestyle that will empower you to live life on your own terms.
Today, we're joined by a couple who turned their financial struggles into a stepping stone for wealth through real estate. They are Allie and Josh, creators of the FI Couple. Allie and Josh had a rough start when they first began their married life 5 years ago. Josh crashed his car and was fired from a long-term job, and they were already living paycheck to paycheck and struggling to pay their $100,000 plus of student loans. They were working multiple jobs, barely making ends meet, and felt burnt out. They knew they needed a change if they ever hoped to have a family and a better life. They discovered the world of real estate and personal finance and decided that real estate investing would give them their best shot at turning their life around and achieving financial freedom. They set an ambitious goal: retire from the 9 to 5 in their 30s. Since setting that goal, they have paid off their 6 figures of consumer debt, built a $1.3 million real estate portfolio, and left their 9 to 5 jobs. When they're not growing and managing their multifamily real estate portfolio, they run the educational platform, The FI Couple, where they have a community of over 200,000 followers. Allie and Josh's goal is to help everyday people like themselves learn how to get better with money, understand real estate, and work towards having their own financial independence. Allie and Josh, I'm so excited you are here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a while since we connected, but we've stayed in touch, so we're so excited to be here today.
Thank you so much, Disha.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. First of all, I have to tell our listeners, I haven't told them yet, that you guys are actually in the same area as me. We all live in the upstate New York capital region. I had the pleasure of meeting Allie and Josh before they started their journey in real estate. We met at a Choose a FI meetup in town, and I remember talking to you guys, and I followed your journey, and it's just been so amazing to see you grow into the beautiful people that you are and the big real estate empire that you have now. So let's dive into your journey. Tell us about that conversation we had. Remind me and our listeners where you were during that time back 2018-ish when you started your journey.
Yeah, so Allie had gone back for her master's to be a licensed clinical social worker in 2015, and I was working full time as a nonprofit manager. She graduated in 2017, and that was the year before we got married in 2018. And up until then, we had never talked about finances. I don't think we ever really even talked too much about like the lifestyle that we wanted to have. We just had so much kind of going on and we were living kind of day by day. And it was the act of planning a wedding and figuring out how much that would cost. That was like our first conversation around like budgeting, like what's our income, what's our expenses, how can we save for this wedding? And then along through that process, that was actually our first time, one, we ever became aware of the fact that we were beyond paycheck to paycheck. We were using credit cards to subsidize our cost of living. And that's also when we realized that we had accumulated between student loans, credit cards, car loans, over $100,000 of collective consumer debt. That's kind of when we decided like we really need to make a change.
Wow. Yeah, that wedding planning process really brings a lot of things into focus, right? Especially money and also how you work together. So clearly, you guys had a positive outcome from that and realized how to work together and figured that out really early in life. So that's awesome. Allie, how was the wedding for you? How was the process?
You know, it's funny. I'm not going to give you your typical answer that you may get from brides, but it was incredibly stressful. We didn't have a great financial situation. So everything was super DIY. I was very overwhelmed and stressed to spend money. And that resulted in like a lot of coordinating and managing. And I think looking back at it, it made sense for where we were in our life. But what I am grateful for is we could have taken out a loan to have someone plan the whole wedding and make it more stress-free. But what we did was we planned a wedding within our financial means. So we the next day woke up and didn't have any debt from that wedding. Our wedding actually was very incredibly stressful for me. Like I joke with Josh, like he showed up to a party that someone planned for him and it was really lovely and fun, but I didn't necessarily have that experience. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that, but looking back, like I'm so grateful for the photos and the videos and the ceremony that we were able to spend with family and friends. But I super love the marriage more than I loved the wedding. I'm not a huge event person. I'm more like the journey than just that single day that we put so much pressure on.
I'm totally with you. I'm so glad you said something like that because honestly, it does fall on the bride a lot. And like you, I was very budget conscious. I had a
Mhm.
350% wedding on a $30,000 budget. And it was a multi-day wedding, like an Indian wedding, you know. So
Yes.
yeah, it was incredibly stressful. And by the end of it, I was just glad it was over, you know, and then we could just get started with our lives. So tell us what happened after that. So you realized you had $100,000 plus of consumer debt. What did you decide to do?
Once we kind of understood our situation, at first we didn't really know what to do. Part of us, myself, felt like our hair was on fire and we had some real problems. I think Allie was a little bit more under the belief of, well, everyone has debt. What's the big deal? People have student loans, people have car payments, we'll pay it off eventually. Like, what's the big worry? So for me, the next thing I did was I went to the internet and I said, how do you pay off debt? The first thing that popped up was Dave Ramsey, and then specifically the Total Money Makeover. And I, from that day forward, became just completely enamored with all things debt payoff, personal finance. And then through that process, kind of fell in love with the idea of early financial freedom and the FIRE movement.
Through Dave Ramsey, we learned a lot of really good, like basic money management fundamentals. But
Mhm.
ultimately, the extreme restrictiveness did not work for us and our lifestyle. I think it took a big toll on our relationship and our mental health. So, back to the drawing board, Josh went because he barely had buy in from me regarding Dave Ramsey. So, he's like, I need to find something better. We discovered real estate investing and really house hacking, which is where you can move into a property, have a tenant that can help support towards your mortgage so that you can reduce your cost of living. So after our wedding, that was really our biggest goal of not we want to be investors, we want this real estate empire. It was really like we have a lot of debt, we're in a bad financial position. We can't really expand our incomes because we're in low paying human services jobs. So how can we decrease our expenses and housing after, reading different books and listening to the podcast? It seemed like a really great opportunity to lower one of our biggest line items in our budget.
Yeah, I remember having that conversation with you, and you guys were kind of on the fence, but you were thinking the real estate investing was brewing in there. And remind me what your 9 to 5s were before you got into real estate.
Yeah, so I was a career counselor for workers with disabilities, and then Allie was a licensed clinical social worker, both in terms of higher education with young adults, but then also elementary school kids.
During that conversation, as I was seeing your gears turning, it was very exciting for me to see that you guys actually went and did the thing that I wish we had done, which was buy a duplex,
Yeah.
right? And live in half of it and rent out the other. So tell us about that. Tell us about that first purchase and Allie, how you got comfortable with that idea.
I was not comfortable with the idea, to be totally frank. I think a lot of times when you hear couples that are either pursuing financial independence or real estate investing, it is very rare that in the beginning of the journey, both couples are 100% on the same page and like, this is a great idea. Usually one person is like, this sounds awesome. And the other person's like, this sounds horrible. And somewhere you meet in the middle. And that was definitely us. Josh was super enthusiastic, dare I say, obsessive about all of it. And I was like, no, no, no. Like, I'm going to work my state job for 30 years. We're going to buy a nice house, have 2.2 kids, move to the suburbs. Like, this is going to be our life. I don't want to be landlords. I don't want to invest in real estate. Like, that feels scary and overwhelming. That's not us. We're social workers. But I think that what helped us get on the same page and the reason why I pursued was because we started looking at the qualitative data and not just the numbers, but do you want to be able to take time off to be with kids during maternity leave? Do you want to travel? Do you want a vacation? Do you want to work full-time and part-time jobs? Because we can't really afford to survive right now. When I thought about my quality of life, it felt like for us at the time, that was the only way to get out of the debt mountain that we were under and to live a life that we really wanted to. So I didn't have buy in necessarily like I thought real estate was so exciting or cool. It was honestly like a desperation to improve our circumstance. So going into that first house hack, I was still quite apprehensive for it, I would say. I wasn't totally convinced.
Yeah. Yeah, and I tried to talk Josh into it too when we first moved here, and he just was not into like sharing a wall with
Yeah.
tenants. So, kudos to you for getting over that fear. And like you said, maybe it was an act of desperation, but it was a really brave move.
Mhm.
And a lot of great things come out of that desperation for freedom. So, kudos. I mean, hats off for you to take that big leap. How did that leap turn out for you?
So it worked out incredibly well. We bought that first property December of 2018, right before Christmas, actually. We moved in and all of our boxes and belongings were in our living room and we celebrated Christmas. And then on January 1st of 2019, we collected rent for the first time. We had previously been paying $1,200 a month for rent. And after collecting rent from the upstairs tenant who was there when we moved in, our rent, if you will, but now to ourselves, was about $400 per month. Along the way, too, we had also sold Allie's dream car and we got a 2011 Toyota Corolla, radically reducing our housing now and then also eliminating a car payment. We had almost $1,000 per month after tax income. And that kind of became like the shovel that we began to use to start paying off all of our debt.
So that's really amazing leap that you guys took. You moved into a duplex and had your tenants basically subsidize your payment,
Mhm.
and you downsized your car to an older car and it was paid off. And kudos for the Toyota Corolla. That was my first car too. Now you've got an extra $1,000 a month that you're shoveling towards your debt. So how long did it take you to pay off the debt?
We actually really aggressively began paying off student loans in January of 2019. We both picked up, I think, two or three side hustles along the way
Mhm.
to earn more. And then in February of 2022, we made our final student loan payment.
So, what was really important for us because paying off debt isn't as appealing as investing. Investing feels really cool and exciting. Paying
Yeah.
off debt, it's like you're paying off borrowed money. There's not really a immediate output, right, that you
Yeah.
see. So for us, we kind of found a balance of paying off the debt, but still making strides towards our investing goals, which I think made us slower to progress in both areas, but it was a much better, sustainable, happy medium for us. So, like, we bought the house hack, then we focused on debt payoff, and then we paid off a chunk of debt. Then we bought a second house hack. Once we got that second rental property that now we're living for zero free because cash flow from property one is covering our costs for property two, then we kind of pivoted back towards the debt payoff to fully eliminate that. So that was a really sustainable way that we were able to kind of satisfy both needs.
Yeah, and it's not like you took a decade to pay off your debt or anything. You still paid it off in a couple of years. I think every family has to find the balance between debt payoff and investing. Dave Ramsey's pretty rigid on the debt payoff part. It sounds like you deviated from that, made your own path, and made great progress. Now, you said second house hack. So tell me, did you move into the second property as well?
It was five houses down from the first one. Again, we bought our first rental at the end of 2018. So we spent all of 2019, one, focusing on paying off debt and earning more. Allie had changed employers to earn more from her career. And then we were also just still learning real estate and start learning how to be a landlord, so on and so forth, and manage the finances of a rental property. And then the following year, we went in with the goal of buying real estate. But as we know, 2020 was also a very interesting year. And once everything shut down, we thought, I don't know if we'll ever buy real estate again because we didn't know back then what would transpire. Anyways, right around springtime, it started to feel like maybe we will buy. And one of our neighbors came by one day and said, "Hey, I got a property, interested in selling it. Would you guys be interested in buying?" And we said, "Sure." So we
Wow.
moved five houses down, and that gave us the $0 per month rent. That radically dropped our cost of living even lower. Our income was higher, so we had a bigger gap every single month, and that just continued to pay off debt.
So you bought that property off market then?
Yep,
Yes.
that was in October of 2020.
every property we've ever purchased,
Yep.
other than this single family home, was off market. And I have to say, buying this house on market, I cannot describe how much more stressful it was than every rental property we've ever purchased off market. It's definitely a different experience.
That's so interesting because I've never actually bought anything off market. So tell me what that process was like.
Off market is beautiful because you network. You have to do a lot more work to find the actual property, but once you find it, it's very relational in the sense that you talk to the owner directly, you can ask questions, you can go back and forth and get to know each other and establish a level of trust. You can negotiate on the purchase price, what makes sense, how quickly or long you need to take to close. So it feels way more personable. Whereas, with this home that we're living in now, our first single family home, I mean, it went on Redfin. We were the first people to see it, but then they had like 6 different offers by end of day. And then we had to wait a week and put in final and best offer. And it was very competitive, very impersonal, very high stress, and you don't get to talk to the sellers. You don't get to ask them about the quirks of the home or if there's anything concerning. You have to wait until the closing table after you've bought the house. It was not a great experience, but I think for most home buyers, that is how you buy homes. And I'm like, wow, that really stinks for the majority of home buyers because it's a very stressful process.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you do inspections for the duplexes that you guys bought off market?
Yeah. So for the first few properties that we purchased, we did do inspections because we purchased them via government backed loans. We did a conventional loan and an FHA loan. So you have to do a home inspection. But
Got
then
it.
moving forward, we kind of went into the world of creative finance where we were purchasing properties via something called private lending or seller financing. So with
Mhm.
those, inspections are not required. At that point, we owned a few rental properties. We brought our contractor along. We brought our inspector along just to kind of informally check it out and look for things. We knew what we were looking for at that point. Nowadays, when we buy properties, we typically waive inspections because it's more competitive. We have our team that comes with us and we're more informed buyers. But that is not a strategy I would recommend for someone that had limited experience or was just starting out in real estate.
Lots of wisdom there. I feel like we jumped ahead a lot because you guys have really made such great progress. Let's go back to the second property that you don't have living expense. How's
Mhm.
your cash flow looking? How's your work life looking? And how do you move on to the next one?
The whole work-life balance, there was no balance. We had 3 years there, especially 2020 to 2022. We had a window, and the vision that we had now 3 years prior, it was happening. We're like, we're doing the thing that we
Mhm.
read about in the books. We were working around the clock, full-time jobs, part-time jobs. I was driving Uber periodically and stuff like that. And that worked. It worked incredibly well. And so we had a very, very high savings rate. I think at one point we were living on like just over $2,000 per month total for 2 adults. Every other dollar that we had, we were still contributing a little bit to like a taxable brokerage. Allie had a pension through the school. Everything else, disposable income wise, was going towards paying off the debt. We weren't traveling because, the world was shut down. And so everything that we had was just going towards paying off the debt.
First year you bought the first duplex, second year bought the second duplex. Then what happened? When was the third?
Yeah, so that came in 2022, actually. So our goal was to pay off debt in February of 2022, and then maybe kind of pause for a little bit. And then maybe later in the year, maybe look for another rental property. Well, wouldn't you know it, a person that we had been networking with honestly, the whole journey, shortly after we paid off our student loans, messaged us, "Hey, I have a friend. I think you guys are still looking to buy real estate, right?" Of course. And they're looking to sell the property. Do you want to meet with them? So we said, sure. We met with the owner, and every now and then you look at properties and the owner wants to sell. It really just doesn't work for our goals or our lifestyle. This was a great property. We ended up closing on that, I think, in April of 2022.
Wow. And Allie, how did you feel about that?
I think that every relationship has different dynamics. And I think something that I really like about Josh and I is that we balance each other, but balancing each other isn't always like fun in the process, right? I remember we paid off our student loans And I thought like I was going to like ugly cry and it was going to be an emotional thing, but it was kind of like we were sitting in our office together. We clicked a button on the computer and we were like, oh, we're debt free. Like it was honestly anticlimactic, but I think through time we felt like the benefit of paying off that debt. But I remember that night we paid off our debt. Like 2 hours later, Josh is like, we got to buy more real estate. And like, if looks could kill, right? Because I'm like, can't you let me bask in this accomplishment for 2 seconds before we move on to the next goalpost? So I think if it was truly up to me, we wouldn't have accomplished any of this. If it was up to Josh, we would have probably bought a lot of not good deals and maybe scaled a little too quickly and made some impulsive choices. So I think Josh and I have a really nice balance of Josh really keeps pushing the goalposts forward, and I am able to discern between like good choice, bad choice, like time to do it, not time to do it. So I think from like a strengths perspective, that balance has helped us. So yeah, I wasn't super thrilled. I wanted to pause a little bit. I think we did pause. We looked at the deal. It was a really good deal. So I was like, you know what? I didn't think we'd buy so soon, but this deal makes a lot of sense for us. So we compromised and we moved forward on it, and ultimately it's been a great property for us.
I think that's so valuable in a
Mhm.
team that you have, the driver and the one that's more grounded just to keep
Mhm.
things in balance is so important. And clearly, you guys do that really well. Sometime in this journey, you've also started the Phi couple, right?
Yeah.
When did you start that?
So with the Phi couple, it was bizarre. COVID had happened, which was unprecedented is the only word, right? None of us have experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
And we were both working from home for 4 months straight when the world shut down. And that was a really traumatic time for so many people. For
Right.
us, it was a point of major reflection of I have literally never spent 4 months straight with this person that like I married and I tied my life to. I've never spent this much uninterrupted time with you. And I like it. I really like it. And I want to do it more. So it had always been for us like, well, maybe you could get a job at the schools, or maybe we could get a job at this nonprofit. Literally, I had a dream one night and I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I was like, we should start a social media brand where we share our journey to financial independence, because very often we heard the stories of people that were multimillionaires, or they didn't make financial mistakes and they just had a really kind of cookie cutter journey. I didn't hear about the people that had low paying jobs and had debt and made mistakes and they're still kind of grinding it out. So I told Josh about it, and you weren't exactly a fan from the beginning.
No, I thought it was a terrible idea. We're not like overly active on social media, or at least we weren't. And I think I had some, call it imposter syndrome, because I said, who are we? We're just Allie and Josh. And we're still paying off our debt, because at the time we started the Phi couple in 2020. We hadn't paid off our debt. We weren't financially independent. I'm like, who are
We
we
owned
to?
like 2 rental
Yeah.
properties at the time.
But then when Allie explained to me what she just shared with you, I said, well, this is the perfect time. Because I will say too,
Yes.
Disha, there were so many times when I would listen to people and they would talk about how much they wished that they had documented kind of the journey, because
Yeah.
when they were sharing their story, they were so often trying to recollect, but they didn't really document it. At most, I expected, maybe our moms, maybe some of our close friends will follow.
We
Yeah.
definitely did not expect this outcome, that like it's a business and we have hundreds of thousands of, people in our community. We did not expect that, but that's been incredible.
Yeah, you guys have made some major progress on
Mhm.
your social media platform. I love the content that you're always producing. And Allie, you really seem to take the lead on the content from what I've been seeing. And so it seems like you've been able to leverage your skills on that end. And so you're growing the Phi couple. You guys are getting national attention. You've been on Good Morning America and Albany newspaper, all the things. And so now, where are you in your real estate investing journey? As far as you have 3 properties now in your story that we're telling, what happens after that?
Yeah, so we had the first two properties via house hacking. The third one we used a hard money loan to purchase. And then the next two we purchased via seller financing. So at this point in the game, we have 11 doors total. We have a single family home. And in the fall, we're going to be acquiring 5 more doors using seller financing again. So 16 total and a little over a million worth of real estate. A million, Josh knows the exact number.
It's probably about 1.4.
Uh-huh.
End goal is probably about 2.5, maybe $3 million of real estate under management. We have a lot of experience paying off debt. So in terms of like the debt versus payoff, right now, because we're in the accumulation mode, we're using mortgages. Once we have the portfolio where we want it to be, which is honestly probably just a couple more deals from where we are today, at that point, we're probably going to start using like the debt snowball and pay off, one or two of those mortgages, just kind of deleverage a little bit, which will then also give us more cash flow. Then after that, who knows?
Yeah, and I'm sure your social media presence and your media presence in general helps your credibility as a borrower when you're doing seller financing, and it's kind of all just works together to help you get to your goal. And so we're just 6 years into your journey and you're almost at financial independence. It seems like you have a very clear vision of how you're going to get there. Are you guys still working your 9 to 5s?
No, actually. So we left, and that was a big controversy for us. It kind of came in waves, and we were very, very intentional and like very data driven on when we did that, when it made sense. I was a full time school social worker. We were going through fertility treatments, and I was putting kids in restraints and getting punched and kicked every day. And it was not good for my physical or my mental health, especially when I'm going through fertility treatments to try to get pregnant. I left that full time job actually before we even paid off our student loans. And that was not the plan. The plan was we paid off the debt, we'd get pregnant, like dee, 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 right? But because of the sacrifice that we made and the choices that we made, we had so much financial breathing room that even though it wasn't the perfect time for me to leave my job, we could more than swing it. So we were able to choose my physical and mental health over the financial picture because we created those systems.
It's worth noting too that the job that Allie left was once upon a time her dream job, her dream school district. Like this was the pinnacle. But then as our goals and our values changed and realized it didn't align with it anymore, I also started my own consulting firm, my business, and I was loving it. But again, didn't really align. And so we gradually kind of wound down our full time careers.
So I went from full time to part time. Josh went from full time to part time. We both did part time plus rentals plus the FI couple for a long time. But then once our daughter was born, it was way more intense and time consuming than anticipated. Shocker. And it was that big decision of do I go back to work? Do we put her in childcare? What does that look like? And ultimately, we decided that I wanted to stay home with her. We had to take on a really hefty private health insurance bill, but that was worth it for us when everything was said and done. And Josh left his part-time work a couple months later. So we're like full-time entrepreneurs now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you guys have taken so many leaps of faith, so many brave steps. I mean, I'm just in awe of all the things that you've done. As far as income goes, are you living off the rental income or are you living off the FI couple income or both?
Yeah, so it's a combination of both. Right now, the rentals cover most of our lifestyle needs. Anything above and beyond that, some of the revenue from the FI couple we use to cover that. And then anything else that we make from, we have periodic sponsors and things like that. We fuel our different investments with that, like real estate. We have our solo 401ks, our brokerage accounts, and that's what we use that for.
So, where are you in your journey of entrepreneurship with that?
It's been really interesting because again, we clicked post or whatever you would call it, November of 2020
Mhm.
without really any expectations of it.
I wish I could say like we did it to build a digital resume for our real estate
No.
business. We did it to become higher income earners than we were as social workers. We had no clue.
Yeah.
I literally was like, we don't have any friends that are into this stuff. And I feel like a weirdo and I want to meet people that are into this type of financial independence, real estate investing, all of it. And that was the immediate goal. But sometimes we look at ourselves and we're like, it feels like a unicorn moment. Like it is just so I can't believe this opportunity happened. But why did it happen? Because we've been busting our butts for 6 years. But what it's allowed us to do to both work from home, be with our daughter, focus on real estate investing, not be at jobs all day that we weren't happy with. It's given us a lot of freedom, which is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I wish you guys had reached out. I feel like over time we've just meant to connect so much, but
Yeah.
since that meeting in 2018 and we haven't, and I'm so glad we're here now so we can like exchange notes because it's so important to have buddies, that are doing the same thing. So you guys scaled from something, a social media presence to a total business. How are you helping your clients get the results they want to
Y-
see?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we provide, copious amounts of free education. We use Instagram as our main platform, and then we're also on Twitter. We also have a newsletter to provide similar content. Periodically, we do work with strategic partners. We get questions every day, all day from people who follow us with different problems or dilemmas or resources they're looking for. Every now and then the stars align and a company reaches out interested in working with us as a sponsor, and they offer a product or service that closely aligns with a problem that many of our followers have, and that's a strategic partnership. So that's one way that we help people. Most people who come to us directly are interested, yes, in financial independence, but specifically getting started in real estate. We also provide mentorship in that way.
Wonderful. And are you doing coaching programs? Do you sell courses?
Yeah, so we have an ebook that's free and it's like a beginner's guide of everything that we wish we knew when we got started. So that teaches people like the fundamentals of house hacking and real estate. But in terms of paid opportunities, yeah, we have a real estate community of over 300 people right now. And we have so many members right now that have like recently closed deals or are under contract. And it's really cool. We meet with these folks weekly through group coaching. We bring in incredible guest speakers. It's pretty much like the community and the hand holding that we wished we had when we got started. When you get started, it feels like you're kind of ruining your life. Like, is this deal going to make sense? Is it not? We talk to members all the time. Have you looked at these numbers? Have you considered this? This is not a good deal. And kind of walk them through like those critical thinking steps that as a first time investor, you may not have.
Absolutely. And a lot of the things, when you're trying to run the numbers are assumptions, and you really need that experience to know, okay, how much is this capex really going to be for this property? What are the
Right.
things that I need to be looking at this property? How much is management going to cost? Speaking of management, are you still managing all of your properties?
Yes.
Yeah, so well, technically we self-manage. Most of it is in the front end. So whenever we have a vacancy, which doesn't happen often, but every couple years we have someone move out, which is natural. We're really sticklers when it comes to tenant screening. We want to make sure we get the right people for our properties. After that, we manage a lot of the bookkeeping with the help of our CPA, but the actual like management, like the maintenance work and stuff like that, that's pretty much all been outsourced. Prior to our daughter being born, I used to handle a lot of that. We have a lot less free time now, and so a lot of that is contractors.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like you guys have set up great systems. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey, your wisdom, your growth. I know this is going to be inspiring to a lot of people out there that are hoping and wishing to do the same. If they want to follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we are pretty much the FI couple on every major platform. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and again, we have a website called www.theficouple, and you can connect with us there and shoot us an email.
Well, thank you so much again. Really appreciate your time. I know you have a little one and some some furry friends there too. So I know you got lots going on. I really appreciate your time. And I hope we can get another local meetup here and get more people started on this path.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Thank you so much.
Have a
It's
great
my
day and thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you. Wow, what an amazing story. I'm so glad Allie and Josh made the time to come on this podcast today. If you found inspiration in Allie and Josh's story, make sure to follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Fi Couple. And don't forget to check out their platform, The Fi Couple, for more ways to take control of your finances. For more tips on achieving financial freedom, subscribe to our podcast, Finding Financial Freedom with a Frugal Physician, and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. I really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. Disha Spath, and I'll see you in the next episode, where we continue to explore smart strategies to build your wealth. Remember, Taking control of your finances today creates the freedom you enjoy tomorrow. Stay frugal, y'all.
The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as individualized financial advice. We are here to share our knowledge and experiences, but it is crucial to consult with professionals such as accountants, financial advisors, or attorneys who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific needs.